Hi, everyone. This is Greg Dwyer, and welcome back to the Executive Summit. Today we're going to talk about third base, which is all about dialogue. It's how to connect with people. It's how to ask questions. It's how to listen. It's how to really get results in direct sales network marketing. Now, I'm dying to know, before we get into third base, which is all about dialogue, how did you do with the money game last week? Hopefully you played it. Hopefully you treated it like a game. You got your pennies or your quarters and your single-dollar bills, and you made a mind shift. Now, I say it all the time. You are standing on a diamond mine of potential. Change your mind. The key to all of this is simply to change your mind. If you don't like to sell, change your mind. You don't like to be disciplined? Change your mind. You don't want to write down your dreams and get really focused because you might not achieve them? Change your mind. I believe the key is to simply change the way you're thinking about the process. What I love about the money game is that you really don't care about what you're going to say to somebody. You're really not concerned what the other person's going to say because you can win the game no matter what if you keep your word. As long as you do what you say you're going to do, which is drop the pennies in or even rip up the money, it doesn't really matter if everybody you know. It doesn't matter at all because you're playing a different game. So hopefully you took it on this week. If you're listening to my voice this week and you haven't played the game, the money game, I'm going to encourage you to write out a contract, sign it, and just do it for a week, even if you're only going to talk to one person a day. Stretch, grow, do something that's uncomfortable so that you will get different results. That's what this game is all about. Okay, let's start with a little bit of a review before we go to third base. I believe there are 5 fundamentals that if you spend time mastering, you will go to the top of your company. You will have an abundant life. Number 1 is home base, which is about desire. You have to know what you desire. And unfortunately, folks, most people don't. They don't know what house they want to live in. They don't know what they want to do for a living. They don't really know why they're in direct sales or network marketing. There's a lot of conflict. That's why I encourage my students, my clients, to use the journaling section of the Business Builder so that you can look at your thoughts. You know, you can look at your thoughts in January and February and March, April, May. You can go back a year and you can say, wow, look how far I have grown. And see, if you don't do that, then your life just kind of slips away and you don't have a record. And it's really important. I can't tell you, if my house was on fire, I'd get my wife and my animals out, but I'm telling you, I'd grab my journal inside the Business Builder because it is priceless. I began with a thought, and at the time it wasn't real, and in the last couple of years it's become a reality. What you focus on, what you desire to bring into your life, if you not only focus on it, but you get out there and you play the game, it's going to happen to you. All right, so first base. It's the discipline. Why does Weight Watchers work? Well, number 1, people have to be accountable. It's like a group. And not only that, but people have to write down their numbers. You know, you don't just show up and go, oh, I don't know. And see, that's what most people do in sales, network marketing, direct sales is, you know, they kind of fly by the seat of their pants. They're not really sure who they talked to this week. If you lined up 100 network marketers and said, listen, I really want to know, what did you do in the last 3 weeks? What did you do in the last 3 months? How many people did you talk to? How many people did you follow up on? And I will tell you from experience, most people don't have a clue. Here's the key. If you want to create results, you have to master first base, which is organized, consistent action. And I got to tell you, folks, it's boring. It really is. Because you got to take a number, a monthly number, break it down to weekly, and then daily, and then you got to make the phone calls. It's absolutely boring. And after doing it for a couple years, you're saying to yourself, wow, this is so boring. But this is the lifeblood of your business. Any organization is recruiting. They're looking for new talent. They're looking for new salespeople. They're looking for new blood. And in my opinion, you can't stop. You got to be looking for the next guy, whether it's a customer for your company or whether you're actually looking for a sales rep or distributor. Somebody wants to build a business. discipline. Nothing happens without discipline, which is talking to people, having a conversation with them, which, by the way, we're going to talk about tonight, which is third base dialogue. The next base is second base. And I know by experience most people never make it past second base. Second base is about mastery of disappointment. You know, a person has a dream. They want to make an extra $500 or $300 or a couple $1,000s a month. And then they get out there. They start making some phone calls. They perceive it to be painful. And then after a while, they start thinking to themselves, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe something's wrong with me. There's all these subliminal conflicts on a lower level that really get in people's way, over money or over success or fear of the unknown. And so what stops them is themselves. Hopefully last week, playing the money game, looking at things different versus the nowhere versus the now here, you understand that you can reframe whatever happens to you. You're going to face rejection. You're going to face deception and apathy and attrition. Attrition is people are going to fall away. Apathy is people are just going to be apathetic. Deception, that's when they tell you they're going to do something and they don't do it. And then rejection is just no. So if you know that up front, that you're going to face these things, then they will not surprise you when they happen. So second base is really mastering disappointment. It's mastering frustration so that when things don't go the way you think they're going to go, you don't quit. Now, you might want to quit that day and say, hey, I'm done for today. I never want to look at this again. And then the next morning you rehire yourself and you get back in and you start prospecting and thinking about your dreams all over again. But listen, you're going to hit the wall. You're going to get frustrated. It's all part of the game. And here's the funny thing about it. When it looks like failure, many, many times there's a lesson behind what perceived to be failure. And number two, you're so much closer to developing the skill. And it all comes down to your attitude, and it all comes down to your mindset. And questions are the key on second base. You can ask yourself empowering questions like, what am I learning and who am I becoming and how can I get better at this when somebody slams down the phone? Or you can say to yourself, oh, wonder what's wrong with me. Maybe this isn't going to work. See, either way, you're going to focus your mind by the questions that you ask yourself. So it's very important that mentally and emotionally you can handle these things so that you don't get wiped out in this game. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about third base. And third base is about dialogue. It's all about connecting with people, asking them questions, and listening. Now, on second base, we talked about questions which bring you towards your focus. And we also learned, hopefully you learned, that on second base, that your problems, external problems, are not really your problems. In other words, it's not your upline's fault. It's not your lead's fault. It's not the weather, the government, or your in-laws or your spouse. The problem really is probably the way you're looking at things, or to say it more bluntly, your problem is probably you, the way you perceive the world, the way you perceive business. So in the process of changing that, you're going to get better results. And it all comes down to how you look at the world, where your focus is, and how you ask yourself questions. Now, on third base, dialogue, I also believe it's about the questions that you ask other people. See, when I first got involved with direct sales network marketing, this is what I was taught. And, of course, we have many different people listening to this CD and listening to this call live from East Coast to West Coast, and they're in different companies, and there's no one way to do this. I believe that. I'm not going to say that my way is the only way. And there are many different trainers out there. There are many different tapes and books and different leaders and different people in your own organization that probably do it differently. So understand that you have to talk to people, but what you're going to say is not going to be duplicated 100%. I mean, we're not Xerox machines, so there's different ways of doing it. But what I've learned is that it has to do with asking people questions, opening them up so that they feel safe enough to really just talk with you and share what's on their mind. Now, what I learned when I first started was you have to talk a lot. You have to tell people what your product is and the scientific research behind it and what's going on with the company and all of this stuff. And I was really told to tell my story. This is just my opinion. What I learned is that most people don't care about you and your story. In other words, if you have the greatest product in the world, and you go out there and you just talk me, or my company, or my product, most likely, and this was my experience, people are going to run away from you. Now, if you're new to network marketing or you're not so new and you're using this approach, oh, John, I got to tell you, I have the greatest thing in the world. It's the best product, and you know, you got to, and just went on and on. Just look at the results that you're getting. That's all I want to say. I guess it would be, equal to going into a bar and meeting somebody of the opposite sex and then just going on and on about yourself. Or even meeting somebody at a party, a Christmas party or some kind of spring party, and you bump into a group of people and somebody asks you a question, like a social question, like how you are, and then you go on and on and on about the new BMW you just bought, and you just talk for 15, 20 minutes about you and your BMW. All right, you can imagine people are going to want to walk away from you and walk over to the shrimp table and just get out of your presence. So why do we think that we can prospect that way, that we can just blab? I call it show up and throw up. I know that sounds so disgusting, but it is disgusting. Now, what I learned is this. If you want to get somebody to come into your deal or look at your product, I've had no success doing all the talking. No success. What I have found out is by asking questions and listening and figuring out where people are at, I have better result than going on and on how great my business builder is, or even how great my course is, or my baseball diamond analogy. So I believe dialogue is really about people. And when I first started in the industry, I thought it was all about product. I thought, I was in a nutritional company. So I thought if I could figure out everything about the product and whether this product will help you with cancer or bronchitis or weight loss or how it works, and I bought all these books about the product and trying to figure out how it works so I could tell people, oh, no, you don't want that for kidney stones, you want this. And what I found was I got a lot of customers, a lot of product people, and I did find some business people. What I'm saying is this: if you want to build a large organization, spend more of your time figuring out yourself and other people. I believe what your true product is, and it doesn't matter what you're in, I believe your true product is people. Now, I took a course called the Dale Carnegie course, which was a 12-week course, one of the best investments I've ever done as far as taking a seminar. Now, I'm not saying you have to take the Dale Carnegie course to learn this, but I would highly recommend anyone listening to the CD or listening to my voice that you pick up Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Buy the book, take a pencil or a pen when you're reading it, underline it, and make it a commitment to read that book at least once every year. See, this is what I saw in my own business. The more I stopped talking about myself, the more I stopped talking about how great my product is, and the more needy I was, and I got rid of that neediness, the more I was able to attract and bring people into my organization and also either sell them the product or bring them in as a distributor. It's really a shift in thinking. It's about really changing your mind. If you think your product is your product, you're probably going to do all the talking about your product. And what I will tell you is you're probably going to hold on to the application. You're probably going to hold on to the product unless you got some real dear friends that are going to buy it from you, But what I've learned is by asking questions and listening to people and figuring out where they are at is a lot better than saying, oh, you got to see that, And I understand enthusiasm sells. Don't get me wrong. Don't take this out of context, because enthusiasm does sell, and being excited about your company or product is really important. But there comes a point when you grow up and you realize that if you really want to influence somebody, you got to talk to them about what's important to them. And I'm going to tell you what's important to them. Are you ready? Write this down. It's them. What's important to them is them. That's it. Bottom line. It's not about your brand new BMW that you bought. It's not even about the Caribbean cruise that you just came back from. Nobody cares about all that stuff. People care about themselves. They are the center of their own universe. And if you want to influence somebody, it's really about making a connection with them and asking them questions and finding out what is important to them. You've probably heard this before. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Now, when I first started in 1994, my philosophy was I wanted to first seek to be understood. You know, I'd go up to people and say, look, I got a great deal, I got a great business, I got a great product, and I would go on and on. People would cross the street when they saw me coming. What I learned through Dale Carnegie and just by reading hundreds of books and going to seminars is that if you first begin by wanting to understand where people are coming from first, and the only way you're going to find that out, folks, is either be a mind reader or ask questions. And in the process of trying to figure out where they're coming from first, you're going to probably connect with them a lot better than just going on and prescribing. Let me give an example. Let's say you go to the doctor and you got a terrible, sore throat, and the sore throat's been going on for a week or 2 or 3 weeks or a month, and you're really concerned about it. And you go into the doctor's office and sit down, and the doctor walks in, and he doesn't even ask you any questions, right? He doesn't even look at your chart. He doesn't even ask you your name. He just walks in and writes you a prescription for penicillin and gives it to you. Well, for me, that killed me because I'm allergic to penicillin. And it probably is not a good thing for a doctor just to walk in and just give you a prescription and say, here's the door, go get it filled. What's the doctor going to do? He's going to look at your chart. He's going to ask you questions. Where does it hurt? You understand? So what I've learned about sales and what I've learned about network marketing or direct sales is it's really about your bedside manner. It's about asking questions, and it's about listening. Okay? Let me give you another example. A lot of times people resist the idea of selling. They don't like sales, or they don't like salesmen. And I'll tell you something. This was my thinking when I first got involved in direct sales and network marketing. Because most people don't like to sell. If you went to your friends and said, look, I got the greatest product in the world, I'm looking for some great salespeople, and we'll train you, most people are like, no way, I don't like salespeople, I don't like to be rejected. And out of 100 people, you'll probably only bring in one person. We're always selling. We're always selling. If you're married, you sold your spouse, or he or she sold you. If you're telling your kids to sit down and be quiet while you're listening to this call, and they're doing it right now, and they're watching Barney, you sold them. We're always influencing other people. We're always selling people to our world reality, our way of thinking, whether it's at a cocktail party, whether it's at a church picnic, whether it's about sports or philosophy or politics. We're constantly defending our point of view. What is that? To me, it's sales. I listen to Billy Graham, a great preacher. What is that? He is persuading people. It's no different. So having a negative reaction towards calling people up and breaking the ice and making a connection and trying to, I shouldn't say try, but having the agenda of wanting to move them towards a decision because you believe your product is great, I don't see anything wrong with it because politicians are doing it all the time. Ministers are doing it all the time. People who are leaders. What's a leader? A leader is a person that influences people. So you got a lot in life and you get to choose. You can either be a leader or you can be a follower. You can either be influenced or you can influence other people. You can either buy or you can sell. And I'll tell you something, folks. If you constantly buy all of your life, you're going to live in the poorhouse. You got to learn how to cross the river and learn how to sell. You got to learn how to connect with people. You got to learn how to persuade people. And every single person on this call can do it because when you were 5 years old, you probably did it. Your mom told you to go to bed, and you told her no. You wanted a glass of water, and before you know it, you're watching The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. So we all know how to do it. It's just that when we grow up, we get to a certain point, we come across a bad salesperson, like a car salesman or some other pushy person, and we have in our mind, I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell. Selling is bad. It's evil. We're always selling. Just my opinion. So, why am I so forceful when it comes to my opinion? Well, I spent 3 years in the telemarketing industry. I met a gentleman out in the West Coast in Vegas years and years ago when I was developing my downline, and I said to him, what's the difference? What's the difference between the guy that's making $5 a month or $500 a month or $5,000 or $50,000 a month or a year? He said, Greg, I'm going to tell you. The people who are making serious money in direct sales network marketing are on the phone and they're learning how to connect with people. They're on the phone with Mary. Mary is looking at their company or their product, and before you know it, Mary is putting John and Susan and Jan in front of the other person, and they're constantly doing phone calls, and they're talking to people. And I said, well, that sounds like telemarketing to me. And he said, well, yeah, it's telemarketing. Think about it. You're connecting with people, you're sharing your product, you're sharing your opportunity, and, you can sit on the phone or pick up the phone and reach more people in an hour than you probably can walking through a parking lot or going to your friend's birthday party and talking about some great product when people are blowing out the candles. I mean, what do you want to do? So it's all up to you. So I took that advice, and I got a job as a telemarketer. And I wanted to know the experience. I wanted to know the feeling of sitting down at 6 o'clock at night and not walking away from the phone until 9, and really just talking to people and getting hundreds of no's per night, and also getting a few yeses from folks per night. And I did. The second year, as I was working as a telemarketer, they actually promoted me to be a sales trainer. Now, how did I learn it? I learned it by just going through hundreds and hundreds of numbers. If you do anything over and over again and you don't stop, eventually you're going to figure out. Eventually you're going to get your style down. You're going to figure out what not to do, what to do. And I also had some people that I could model with. One guy was by the name of Joe, the other guy by the name of Stephen, and I sat next to them. And I listened to the way they talked to people. I saw the other people in the room, and this is how they were. Hi, Mrs. Dwyer. My name is Jan, and the reason for my call, and then they went into the script. They kind of like read the script off the computer screen. Now, those people did okay, but it was Joe and Steve, and ultimately myself, that learned how to be ourselves and just to talk to people without caring. Now, here's what happened. I thought to myself, I'm going to sit here from 6 to 9. I'm going to make hundreds of phone calls because we had an automatic dialer. And I'm just going to be myself. I'm just going to talk, and I'm not going to be attached to what John or Susan or Scott or anybody says. Why does it matter? And I learned through that process and the process of modeling my two friends that I could achieve more just by being relaxed and just by being myself. I mean, think about it. How do you feel when somebody calls you up and they want to sell you siding for your home? Or if someone calls you up, I just got a call the other day, and wants to come into your house and clean your carpets. How do you feel? Well, you probably feel put off because most of the people that do this don't know what they're doing. They're just reading a script, or they feel uncomfortable. And because they feel uncomfortable, you pick up on that feeling of being uncomfortable, and you're uncomfortable too, and you just want to get off the phone as soon as you can. My first advice to you is simply be yourself. And talk to people like you already know them. I would get on the phone and I would talk to people in New York and even in California like I knew them like my best friend. I did this for 3 years. I only had one person say to me, somebody from the East Coast, say, how dare you talk to me this way? You don't know me. You don't know me from Adam, and you're talking to me like you're my best girlfriend. And I said, yes, ma'am, you're right. Out of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of calls, I only had one person say that to me. But what I'm going to suggest to you is when you're calling people, have the mindset that you're calling your best friend. Now, if you're calling your best friend, that's easy. But when you get to call the white pages or the leads or, wherever you get your numbers and names from and you don't know them, I would suggest you would call them and project that you're already connected with them. What's a stranger? Well, a stranger is someone you haven't met yet, and they're strange because you don't know them yet. So what you do is you pick up the phone, you go, hello, George, this is Jan. The reason for my call, lottie, 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 whatever you want to do or say, but you want to break the ice, get your foot in the door, and then you want to open them up by asking them questions. At that point, they're not strangers anymore. I can't tell you how many great conversations I have every single day. I talk to people, I'm myself, I put people at ease. They either say yes to me or they say no to me, and it really doesn't break my heart either way because I'm playing a game. That's all I'm doing. I'm playing a game. How do I keep score? Every week, every month, my commission check, the numbers. It's just a game. That's all I'm doing. When you get in your mind that this is just a game, it doesn't matter. It's not life and death. It's just a game. And the more relaxed you are, And the more committed you are, but less attached to what they're going to say, the better the results are going to be. Remember when you were in grammar school, or maybe you were in high school and you fell in love with somebody, or somebody had a crush on you? Well, if they had a crush on you and they were pushy, maybe it was a guy and they just came on real strong, you wanted nothing to do with them. You ran the other way. When people play hard to get, it changes everything. When people play hard to get, that they don't want to be got or they don't want to have a relationship, then people want that. And it's the same thing with this business. If you get on the phone and you're like, oh, please, God, I hope they buy. If I don't make $2,000 this month, I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage and my light bill, my cars, and you're really needy. Remember the girl in high school that was really needy towards you, or maybe you were needy towards her? I mean, it's disgusting. It's like, I don't want to be around them, and maybe you felt the same way too. But the minute you play hard to get, people want it. Remember the old story in Genesis, and whether you're religious or spiritual or not, you probably know the story in the first book of the Bible. God creates everything, folks, everything. He says to Adam and Eve, he says, you see this tree? That's the tree you can't touch. See that apple or whatever it was? Don't touch it. What they want? They wanted what they couldn't have. So what I'm going to suggest you do is call people up, connect with them, because in your mind you already know them. They're not a stranger, because you're going to break the ice, open them up, ask them some questions, but don't be too needy. If you come across like, oh, please, you got to do this, or oh, my product is so great, why would somebody want to go into business with you if you were salivating on the other end? I mean, think about it. Somebody's got a great business. Why do they have to prove it to you? If you had a great business, why would you even be calling me? Think about it. Think of Donald Trump. Here's a great example. Every year Donald Trump does this reality television show. I think this year he's doing it out in California. But Donald Trump is not going to beg people to be on his show. He's just not. In fact, he probably is not involved with it at all. He probably has other people, in fact, I know he does, that screens the people that want to be involved with the show. And there are thousands of people that want to be on that show. And what do they only pick, 10, 12, 15, something like that, or 25? So imagine sitting in front of Donald Trump and you want to be on his show. Do you think Donald Trump's going to say, well, I just want to show you that we are a debt-free company and we have this and we do this and, boy, you'd be really lucky to join us? You think Donald Trump is going to jump on top of the desk or over the desk and beg you to get involved with his TV show or any business for that matter? No. You're going to have to sell Donald on the fact that you're the one that needs it. You're the one that wants it, and you're the one that's qualified. Donald is not going to beg you, chase you, or even convince you. When I do prospecting, and whether it's for the nutritional company that I was involved with 10 years ago, or whether my business builder in the 12-month course or 24-month course, I don't beg anybody. I ask them simple questions, like, why should I train you? Why should I spend 2 years of my life getting you from a $2 a check a month to $500 to $1,000 and up? Why should I spend my time and energy? Why would you want to do this? I turn the tables around. I take it away from people. I say, look, I can't promise you this is going to work. Same thing with what you're doing. If you have a great product or a great business, why would you chase people? Well, I can see if you only have 5 people to call, or you only have 100 people to call. But, last count, I know, on the planet, you're never going to get through everybody on the planet anyway. So why would you chase and beg and try to convince people to get into your deal, unless, of course, you need them so, you can get your bills paid? See, people can pick that up. You have to have an attitude of what we call posture, and it's a mindset. Now, when I first started, I had no posture whatsoever because I was needy. At the time, I was making $18,000 a year as an inner-city minister, and yeah, I did need the money. But what I found out was when I changed my mind and I came at it from a different way or a different perception or perspective, that's when everything changed. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is not to read a script. Now, if you want to read a script, that's fine. If your upline's telling you you must do it this way, I would say do it their way. But you also want to experiment with different ways. I love the way Peter Mingles teaches with the icebreaker and the questions and the follow-up. It works for me. So I tell people this: no matter what you want to do, and you can definitely be flexible in how you prospect and what you say, you should have a system of exposing people to your information. So here's my system. I call it first base, second base, and third base. And if you think about it, it's based on the big piece of plastic tab that says today at the very top. If you look at your business builder, there's a big tab that says today, and then it says 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is all I do. Number 1, schedule your weekly and daily calling goals. Add prospects and referrals to your prospect file every day. Always ask for referrals. Make trial calls from your prospect file. Transfer interesting people to your contact manager, and then follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. That's all I do. It's pretty boring. Most people do not tell me yes on the phone the first time. So here's my system of exposure. I'll share it with you, and you can adapt whatever you'd like to do with your product or your company. Number 1, I have a list of leads. I have a list of people that I'm going to call. I also have a goal of how many people I'm going to call this day. And I'm putting in my circles and I'm putting in my squares. And at this point, I don't play the money game. I play a different game, which I'm going to tell you about at the end of this call, which if you like, you may want to upgrade to it. But I play a game, and I'm going to share with you the game that I play with people. My objection is to get to first base. That's all I'm going to do. And the way I get to first base is I have a calling goal for that day or that night. Let's say it's 5 or 10 or 20, okay? So I'm going to call somebody up. Let's say it's Joe. And I'm going to say something like this. Hello, Joe. This is Greg. Joe, the reason for the call, I work with a business referral system. It's a company that helps me to find leaders in direct sales and network marketing, like XYZ, ZY2, and such party plans and internet companies. Joe, I assure you I'm not calling you. I'm not a recruiter. That's not the reason for the call. I actually own a company called Diamond Mine Seminars. We've been in business for 10 years. We've worked with 45 to 50 different network direct sales companies. And our purpose is to help individual distributors to be more organized, to be more consistent, to be more professional so that they are getting predictable results. First on paper and later, about a week or a month later, a couple months later, it shows up in their commission check. Joe, the reason I'm calling, I just want to introduce myself, see what you're doing, whether you're still in the industry or not, part-time or full-time. So, Joe, what are you doing? So my way of doing it, which, by the way, folks, it's not the only way. It's just a way, is I call somebody and I simply use that introduction. Hello, Joe. And then I pause for about 3 seconds, and then I go, this is Greg, which throws people off because they don't know if I'm a salesperson or they don't know if I'm a friend or somebody they met at the cocktail party last week. It's ingenious. If I lived to be 1,000 years, I would have never thought of it. Then I go into an icebreaker. The purpose of my icebreaker is to put a network marketer at ease. Because here's what I know. If you're a network marketer and you're hearing this guy, Greg, call you, you immediately think Greg is going to call you to put you in another deal, another downline, another program. So if that's the case, then people are going to be uptight. They're going to shut off. They're programmed to say no and get off the phone. So what I'm looking to do is to break the ice, to get past that membrane so I can talk to the real person. So what I do is I talk for 30 to 60 seconds. I don't say anything. I don't say anything at all. What I'm saying is for two purposes. Number one, create credibility. Let me say that again. To create credibility and curiosity. That's the only reason for the phone call at the beginning. I'm not looking to tell them about the binder. I'm not looking to tell them about the course or anything like that. The only thing I'm looking to do is to put them at ease, to put them into a safe environment. And number two, create credibility and curiosity. That's it. That's all I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to tell them about the pills or the shakes or nothing like that. I want them to be curious. That's it. And I want to create credibility. Now, after that, I want to interview them. I want to open them up. And the way that I interview folks is not, well, let me ask you, how much money are you used to making? And let me ask you this, why are you looking for this? I don't interview them like that. I interview them like Columbo would do. Remember Columbo on the television show? I would say, oh, by the way, let me ask you, so why are you looking to do that? Or why are you looking to, it's very subtle. It's like they don't see me coming. And what I'm looking to do, I have an agenda on the first phone call. I'm looking for them to do all the talking. Because once they start talking about themselves, which, by the way, is their favorite subject, or once they start talking about their needs and what they're doing and why they're doing it, then I know where to go from there, okay? So when they're talking, I'm listening. I'm taking literally notes in my business builder because they're giving me the key so that I can turn the lock and make the sale or get the commitment or get the Visa or the MasterCard or bring them into the course. It's the same thing. If I was involved in direct sales network marketing with a nutritional company or with a network multi-level marketing, I would do it the same way. I would open them up, find out what's important to them, take it away from them. I wouldn't force it on them, and I'd get them to talk about themselves. That's all first base. Okay, that's all first base. Second base is really the presentation. Now, what I do is I do a conference call Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, every single night. And I refer people to go to this live conference call. I also give them www.gregdwyer, which is G-R-E-G, D as in day, W as in Wednesday, Y as in yesterday, ER.net. And I tell them, look, here's our website. Here's a book that we wrote called The 1 Minute Network Marketer. Why don't you take a look at it? I can't promise you that I'm going to work with you. I can't promise you that this course is for you. But you know what? It's worth your time to download our ebook, The 1 Minute Network Marketer. It's worth your time to take a look at our website. And you know what? I'm doing a complimentary training tonight. Maybe for you, it may not be for you. And really, folks, the more I don't care, the more they want to join my course. Okay? It's just like school. If you're thinking college or graduate school, people are dying to get in. They're dying to get into Harvard. Why? Because they only accept, out of 10 people, they only accept 3. If they accepted everybody, who would want it? It's the same thing. It's a mindset. So if I was building a company with you, I would say, look, I have a goal this year of finding 5 leaders that are like me, and that's it. I'm looking for 5 people who are obsessive-compulsive, who write down goals, who want to build businesses, and are going to be focused. And 99% of the people I talk to don't qualify. So, Jan, let me ask you, why should I work with you? Why should I spend all my time coaching you? And I really mean it. I'm only looking for a few people. Out of thousands, I'm only looking for a few people like me. And it would be the same thing. So second base is the presentation. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is not to do the presentation. In other words, if I was your upline, I would not tell you to call George on the first date, on the first call, and then when George starts asking you questions, you go into a long presentation about how great the company and the product is. What I've learned a long, long time ago is that the person who asks the questions controls the conversation. I learned that a long time ago. So if you're going to get on the phone and call your best friend or a lead, and you think that you have to give a presentation to them, and then you have to answer their questions, you're probably going to be on the wrong side of the equation. See, I don't do that. I get on the phone, I break the ice, I start asking questions immediately, and if they're not open to my questions, I get off the phone. I go to the next call. Why would I care? I mean, there's millions of people to talk to. And as far as what you guys are doing, there's even more than that to talk to, because my audience is a smaller audience than yours, because you can really recruit anybody. The only person that I talk to is a person who's already in a direct sales company or a network marketing company or somebody running a business. The questions are the key. Remember we talked about second base questions are the key as far as the questions that you ask yourself, empowering questions or disempowering? When it comes to third base, the questions are the key here. You want to ask questions and get them to open up. And when they start asking you and coming at you with all these questions, you just want to focus them towards your presentation, which is a web presentation or a sizzle call, or if you want, get your upline involved. In other words, the demonstration is something that happens outside of you. You know, you're not calling Susan and getting into a presentation on the first date. I mean, why would you? I mean, it would seem to me that you were really needy. Instead, what if you called 5 people a day or 10 people a day and you said, listen, I'm not sure if this is for you. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that want this and this. I don't know if you really qualify, but hey, take a look at our conference call or go to the website, do this, and you know what? We'll talk tonight or we'll talk tomorrow. And then we'll go from there. If it's something you want to pursue, something we want to pursue, fine. If not, that's okay. Maybe you know somebody that might have an interest. So again, it's being like a Columbo. It's asking questions, and it's really about listening. The other thing I learned a long, long, long time ago is you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Okay? You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. See, when I first started, I thought, oh no, what am I going to say? What I learned through working through the telemarketing industry is that it doesn't matter. Because if you just picked up the phone and you called 10 people a day or 5 people a day or even 5 people a week, and you just said, you don't want to buy health insurance, do you? You're going to find somebody that month that says, I can't believe you're calling me. Because the safety is going to be in the numbers. So you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. If you're trying to be perfect and you don't want to do this because you're afraid of being foolish or making a mistake, just realize the people who are successful at this game are not afraid of making a mistake. In fact, in their mind, they don't perceive it as a mistake. Even when things go wrong, they go, interesting, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, but what can I learn from this? And in that mindset, it's not a mistake because every dial, every conversation is helping you to get better. The only way to fail is to drop the bat, walk off the game, and go, this don't work. Okay? But you're not going to do that. You've come too far. You're already on third base. Questions are the answer. Somebody asks you a question and you don't know what to say. Say, look, why would you ask me that now? I just told you all the information's on the website. I got to get to the next call. So what if you just called 5 or 10 people a day or a week and you just broke the ice with them, had a conversation, opened it up with questions, and then pointed them towards your website or Sizzle call or even your upline, and then you did some follow-up? What would your business be like 3 months from now? Folks, I'm telling you, if you did it religiously, consistently, in an organized fashion, you would recruit more than the guy who's not doing this. Now, what's third base all about? We're talking about the prospecting system of breaking the ice in the presentation. Third base is the follow-up.